Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Good evening, I guess. I guess it could be good afternoon wherever you are out west. But good evening, everybody, here on East Coast, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock West Coast Time, and all points in between. Yours truly, Captain Lou, with the third episode of our Captain Lou Extravaganza podcast right here on the Belly Up Sports Network. Of course, you can see us live right here on the on our YouTube channel, which is the Captain Lou Sports Network. And we want to thank everybody for taking time out tonight to be with us here on our program. We've got a really good show lined up for you right now. I'll just kind of get the bugs worked out here. Hit the wrong button. Hold on. Anyways, we're glad you could be with us here on this Wednesday night. We got a lot to talk about tonight. The Stanley Cup playoffs are in full bore here tonight. And this week, 5 Game 7s over the weekend. You couldn't ask for a better weekend of playoff hockey, Stanley Cup hockey at all. And, there was some great drama. As for some reason, I'm having a little issue with my computer. Of course I am. Anyways, there we go. Let's try that now. Anyways, let's try it again. Round 2. I knew this was going to happen tonight. May the 18th, 2022, Stanley Cup playoffs are in full steam as we get the second round going. Hi, everybody. Captain Lou here with another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza, live on the Captain Lou Sports Network and also here on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Group. Glad we could be with you here tonight. We've got a lot to go over. Not only Stanley Cup playoffs, but the NBA is now in their conference finals as we've got Miami against Boston. They had game 1 last night. And coming up tonight, Golden State and Dallas. Dallas with what a lot of people thought was a big upset. They get to take on Golden State as they pummeled Phoenix in Game 7. Talking about Game 7, we had 5 of them in the NHL. Incredible. It was a great weekend of hockey. The Game 7s in hockey by far a lot more suspenseful than they were in the NBA. Game 7 between Milwaukee and Boston turned out to be a blowout. And then any of you that were watching a little bit of that Dallas-Phoenix game saw that it was 57-27 at halftime. The NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, they weren't nearly that bad as there were some great finishes. Obviously, Calgary, they took care of Dallas 2-1 in overtime. You've got New York Rangers taking care of Pittsburgh in overtime, 4-3, overcoming a 3-2 deficit in that one. Wow, some great games. I tell you, Stanley Cup fever, it's here. And I tell you, there's round number 2 underway. And we had a pretty good game last night between Tampa Bay and Florida, the Battle of Florida, as the Tampa Bay Lightning came from behind to beat the Florida Panthers. They won 4-2, I believe it was, or 4-1 rather. And again, just another example of great hockey in the second round. And, just sets the stage for tonight. Tonight is kind of an interesting stage for the NHL. It's the Battle of Alberta. And we've got a special guest that's going to come up in about 11 minutes. We had a chance Monday to sit down with an old friend who is front and center up in Alberta, Cody Jansen. You can hear him on World Hockey Report 3 days a week. He's on CHED up in Edmonton, and he's also the play-by-play man for the Saskatchewan Rush of the National Lacrosse League. But he's front and center. He's one of our hockey experts, and he is right in the middle of that Battle of Alberta. As crazy as it sounds, they haven't played in playoffs in, what has it been? 32 years? 1991? 91, I think, was the last time these two teams played in a playoff series. But if you count those series that they played in, besides the original 6 teams, that series has the third highest amount of Game 7s. something tells me that may go game 7 as well. But there's a lot of variables that go into it. A lot of, just, I don't know, just a lot of things that to keep in mind on that one is the rivalry is going to be reignited. And I think it's a very good thing for hockey when you've got two teams that close, haven't played each other in 30 years, over 30 years. Brings out Lonnie McDonald, Grant Fuhr, memories of Mike Vernon, of course, Wayne Gretzky, Yari Curry, Messier, Luke Rowe, but you name it. The names are long, and it's a very, very glorious list of names. And so that gets underway Wednesday night, 9:30, I think is puck drop for that one. And that's going to be up in Calgary for that. So again, really look forward to that. But we got a lot of series to talk about. As we mentioned, the New York Rangers, they beat Pittsburgh in 7 games. Was it just me, or did Pittsburgh look like they were running out of gas in that one? I know they had the lead in the third period, but you could see it just there was something about it. And then, of course, that controversial play that set up the goal with the guy's helmet getting knocked off. And then, of course, you had Sidney Crosby and Sullivan complaining about it afterwards, saying that turned the tide. I just, I caught some flack on Twitter. Sidney Crosby, I guess when you get interviewed after a game and you're frustrated and you look at that play, of course, you're going to blame the referees. You're going to blame the call for the series loss. I just, I knew it was going to be a fantastic series. I had New York picked to win that one in 6 or 7. I can't remember, but I know I had the Rangers picked in that one. But it came down to that overtime winner for the New York Rangers in Game 7. Panarin worked his magic, and the Rangers are on to the second round against a very, very solid Carolina team that they took care of a pesky Boston team. I had Boston winning that one in an upset. Carol, I don't know if they made a believer out of me or not. I think that series against the Rangers is going to be a little closer than people think. Carolina is a good outfit. And, once you get past that first round, now you settle in. The nerves are gone. And I think you're going to see a pretty good series. I think Carolina is going to win, but I think it's going to go 6, maybe 7 games. So we'll see on that. Some of the other series that we've got, obviously, we've got Florida and Tampa Bay. They started out last night. 3 power play goals. Did any of you get probably the play of the playoffs, if not the year? Kucherov with that pass, that move, coming in over the line and then passing it to Perry, who I think you and we could have tapped that puck in the net behind Bobrovsky to give them a 1-1 tie. What a hell of a play. That was just remarkable. And they went on to get 2 third-period goals on the power play, 3 altogether, and they defeat the Florida Panthers 4-1. They take a 1-game-to-none lead in that one. Game 2 will be tomorrow night. But again, the other game last night was the St. Louis, Colorado game. That one's going to be that's going to be an interesting game. That's going to be an interesting series as well. Colorado, they hung on. I think it was a 3-2 overtime win last night. All the talk was there going to be rust? They really. I don't know if they really got tested or not against Nashville. They swept them, so on paper it looks like they really didn't get tested. But we'll see. But that's going to be an interesting thing. Can St. Louis hang with Colorado? They were my pick to win it all. I know that's an easy pick to make. The limb isn't that big to walk out on with the Avalanche. Makar, he was solid. He's obviously one of the leading players on the team in the league, probably the leading defenseman in the league. But, St. Louis, Bennington coming back, taking over for them in the opening round against a pesky Minnesota Wild team. Game 2 will be tomorrow night. St. Louis will try to get the equalizer. This is a big game for them. They got to get game 2 to keep it, go back to St. Louis with a 1-1 split. Colorado winning those first 2 games. Boy, you get down to them 2-0. That's going to be a big ask to get past them. Then, of course, you got, again, as we mentioned tonight, the Battle of Alberta, Calgary, and Edmonton. So we got a lot to talk about as well. We got some NBA to talk about as well, too. As we mentioned, we've got the conference finals all set to go. Game 1 was last night as between Boston and Miami. Is this going to be a battle of survival of the fittest, whatever you want to call it? Boston, of course, not having Marcus Smart last night. They didn't have Al Horford because of COVID protocols. I don't know if they're going to have him tomorrow night as well. It sounds like that he's probably not going to be available at least until Game 3. But on Miami's side, Kyle Lowry, he didn't play last night. Probably not going to play tomorrow night as well. Looking like maybe Game 3 for him in Boston. We'll see. But boy, Miami looks good. Boston, give them credit for that big win against Milwaukee in Game 7. You know, and again, I don't know. I sound like an old, just from what's the word I'm looking for? You know, get off my lawn, whatever. I still don't get. I look at Giannis. I still say the biggest thing that happened to him, I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but him making that first three-pointer against Miami or against Boston in Game 7 gave him that extra confidence that he could do it time after time after time. They were 4 out of 25, I believe it was, or 3 out of 28, one of the two against the Boston team that, what did they have? They hoisted 20-some three-pointers. But I guess what I'm getting at is I look at a guy like Giannis. He could, I know he's been averaging 40-some points or darn close between points, assists, and rebounds, 60 plus. If you're looking for that single game parlay, triple double, whatever. But he could average 40 a game inside. I know that he's got he's got the moves, and but I don't know. What bothers me about that game plan is, how many times did I see them drive in the lane and kick out? That's the way the ball game. That's the way the NBA is played now, and I think I just watched that in frustration. But I got to give credit to Boston. Jason Tatum, he's coming into his own. He's a superstar now. He's elevated his game. And again, we go back to that. Our title, is it going to be survival of the fittest between Boston and Miami? Miami's defense came to play in the second half. They looked awful sloppy in the first half last night with all those turnovers. But, then they were able to outscore them. I think it was 34-12 in that third quarter. That proved to be the difference. So, you got Game 2 tomorrow night with them. Again, as we mentioned, Marcus Smart is probable. Al Horford is doubtful. And Kyle Lowry for Miami, he's probably going to be doubtful. They're not going to rule him out till tomorrow, but it just doesn't look like, I watched some highlights of him at shoot-around. He looked very, very pensive out there. So I don't know if we'll see him for Game 2. Then, of course, tonight, Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Luka Doncic and his Dallas Mavericks against, the trio, if you will. Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and then you can also throw in Jordan Poole. A lot of weapons. It's going to be a fun series. I think that one's going to go 6 or 7 as well. Well, hey, just want a reminder that we've got a new sponsor to the program here, intheclutch.com/Real Captain Lou. You see that on the screen now. Intheclutch.com. They're your source for all kinds of Major League tees, T-shirts, emblems. And we want to welcome them as a sponsor here to the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Check out their website, intheclutch.com. And if you see something you like, use the promo code RealCaptainLou right there on the screen, and you'll get 10% off. It's that simple. That is intheclutch.com, our new sponsor here to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. And, of course, our website, or I checked out our YouTube channel, which is the Captain Lou Sports Network. Hey, let's get back now. We talked about the Battle of Alberta. That's coming up tonight, 9:30. We mentioned it a couple of times here tonight on the podcast. We had a chance to sit down and talk with an old friend of the show. He's been on the Extravaganza a few times. He's right up there. He's in the midst of it right now. We talked to him on Monday. We pre-recorded this interview. I was just thrilled to death that he could take time out to be with us. He's the host of and creator of the World Hockey Report. You can see that on 12 Ounce Sports on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Let's bring in Cody Jansen, and let's take a listen to this interview that we did Monday. Again, front and center with the Battle of Alberta. And let's go now to our Captain Lou Extravaganza guest line and bring in an old friend of the show. He is right now in what I would say the hockey mecca of the world. We finally get what we've been looking for a long time, especially if you're fans of Canadian pro hockey, the Battle of Alberta. Let's bring in Cody Jansen. He's from World Hockey Report, and you can also hear him as a play-by-play guy for the Rush in National Lacrosse. But right now it's hockey. Cody, welcome to the show again. How are you, my friend?
Lou, happy to talk hockey. I'm sure Rangers fans probably don't like hearing that, Edmonton and Alberta is the mecca of hockey. But again, they'll complain about anything, so we'll let them try.
Hey, at least, they're just glowing right now because they had a come from behind win over Pittsburgh in Game 7 and that overtime win. The Breadman Panarin with that game-winning goal. Real quick, before we get to the Alberta series, that was one that I got to be honest with you, Cody. I went to bed last night. It was 3-2 Pittsburgh because I had to get up at 4 in the morning. When I woke up this morning, I saw that Pittsburgh won in overtime. I gave up on the Rangers. So, Ranger fans, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Rangers winning that in overtime is, kind of a shock in a sense. But it's also, it's kind of sad if you think about it. Like, Crosby was out. Pittsburgh was rocking their third string Tendy, who was cooking meals on Instagram last year. Like, they had no business being in a Game 7 overtime. So for the Rangers, that's why I've got zero faith in them in the next round. Like, they scraped their way past the Pittsburgh Penguins team that was held together by Scotch tape. Like, it's I don't know. I mean, they got a good team, but they're not a playoff team. Like, Panarin shows up with one lucky shot at the end. Zibanejad's awesome. I love that. They had a little bit of fight in their lineup. Like, I'm a big Revo guy. But other than that, I don't know. That's not a convincing win if you ask me, especially over an old Pittsburgh team who's rocking their third Tendy.
Okay, well, we'll put that one aside because the real reason I've got you on tonight is the Battle of Alberta. We've been clamoring for this since, 1988 or 1991 or whatever it's been. Probably, I don't know if that's before you were born, Cody, but I remember some of those series, and now you've got it's like a who's who that are going to be a part of that series as far as giving their opinions and whatnot. Grant Fuhr, Lanny McDonald, Mike Vernon, of course. Then you've got the great ones from way back in the Edmonton history with Gretzky and Curry and Messier. But wow, what a time to be front and center in Alberta for NHL hockey.
31 years it's been, Lou. When you think of the greatest games in hockey, you think of the Theo Fleury, you think of the Steve Smith, you think of the Bill Ranfords. Like, this is what hockey is. It's the best rivalry in the NHL. It's the best rivalry of all time. And we are so lucky to get it in a season where we have the best player to ever play the game in Connor McDavid, facing off against a Calgary team that does have weapons, but they've underperformed. Matthew Tkachuk was terrible in the first round. Johnny Gaudreau was all right. He put up some points, but he really wasn't that big of a difference maker until Game 7 overtime, where he actually changed the series. You've got goaltending. You've got Jacob Markstrom, who's rock solid. And then you've got Mike Smith at the other end who blows Game 1 for the Oilers, and then he turns into a guy who looks like he could win a Conn Smythe trophy. Like, this is the best series you could have asked for. The only thing else you could have asked for was this to be in the Western Conference Final, not the semifinal, because no other matchup, you couldn't handpick a better matchup than this. Battle of Alberta, these teams are 3 hours apart. These fans are the best in the league. Like, are you kidding me? We are so spoiled to get this, and it better go damn 7 games.
I certainly hope it does. Not maybe for your heart, but, I look at both these games as 7-game series. The first round is now was Dallas playing that great a defense, Cody, or was it just Calgary, like you say, underperforming? Because I look at the stats, there's such a contrast, with the Edmonton series with LA. The only game where it took less than 4 goals to win in the LA Edmonton series was Game 7, whereas in the other series with Calgary and Dallas, one game went, the winner had 4 goals. I mean, that's crazy. Such a a difference in styles. Was it Calgary just not playing that well, or was it Dallas really putting the defensive clamps on them?
Dallas played as good as they could have. That's, when you think of some of the best or most experienced coaches, Rick Bowness in the West, he's pretty much the Barry Trotz. Like, he took this Dallas Stars team that is very, very thin on all aspects of their lineup, forwards, defense, goaltending. He took them to a cup final. Why? Because he's a damn good coach. Yeah. That's why. And when you add that in with the fact that Jake Ottinger, a 23-year-old kid playing out of his mind, you get a difficult matchup for anyone. Like, I honestly think the Dallas Stars, if they played like that, would have taken the Colorado Avalanche to Game 7 overtime as well. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who they were playing. The style they were playing is so difficult for anyone to match up because you can't get a read on them. All they do is sit back and they capitalize on their chances. So how are you really supposed to be going through a 1-3-1 for 7 games, especially on a team like Dallas who can transition quick? They're not afraid to throw the body around. They're physical. They're mean. And they are one of the best coached teams in the entire West.
Well, then you look at Edmonton, and you touched on it briefly, their opening round series against the Kings. It was just, you talk about up and down. And, I wasn't worried about Edmonton after they lost the first game. I thought, all right, the emotion, LA playing on that a little bit. Then I saw Edmonton just, 8 goals in back-to-back games, I think it was. But then they kind of stepped in it a little bit in Game 2. You look at the amount of goals scored in this one, and then you see the stats, and you see that Smith is the league leader in the playoffs with 2 shutouts. It's hard to believe that it came down to a 2-0 shutout in Game 7.
Well, and Mike Smith is the X factor for the Oilers, right?
Okay.
He can win them the series. He can lose them the series. That's my X factor going into a Calgary-Edmonton matchup. But there also is a fact of it's incredible what McDavid did, right? 6 multi-point games in a series. Like, that's only ever been done once before by Nifty Middleton, right? And that's back in the day when goaltenders weren't even wearing gear, I think. So, it's a couple of years back. And so for McDavid to be doing this, 1, simply incredible. 2, I think there's still another gear, Lou. I think Connor McDavid could, I want to see Connor McDavid take over a game and have a hat trick. And, Game 6 and Game 7 for the Oilers, you can directly point at McDavid and say he's the reason they won. He elevated his game. Those are the 2 best games of his career. And you'd have a hard time arguing that. I mean, I was talking with Elliot Friedman on Friday, and he said Game 6 was the best game he's ever seen Connor McDavid play. So that's a guy who's seen a hell of a lot of hockey, so I can't be talking over him. But I still think that Connor McDavid could show up in Game 1 or Game 2 or whenever, have a hat trick, go out in style, and dominate, and we'd be like, yep, well, that's why he's the highest paid player in the league. He's a superstar. He just stole the game in the playoffs. Like, I think there's that factor. And then again, I mean, Mike Smith, he's got to be rock solid. But how much other offense can the Oilers generate with Draisaitl, who's hobbling around out there? He's far from healthy. The Flames aren't healthy either, though. Chris Tanev, he didn't play Game 7. Like, it takes a lot to keep Chris Tanev out of the lineup. He's one of the toughest in the league. So injury concerns, it might come down to who's healthier at the end of the series.
We're joined by Cody Jansen. You can catch him at Twitter at Jansen on Play-by-Play and at World Hockey Report. Cody, I got to ask you this, though. Edmonton, they've had the monkey on their back. They've been said that they've underperformed in the last few years. It seems like this is great that you and I get to talk because on a positive note, because it always seems like when are they ever going to kick it into that next gear? My question to you is, they got over the first round hurdle. Now they're playing in the Battle of Alberta. Do you see any kind of a letdown in this first game, or how difficult is it going to be for them to keep the mojo going?
Well, here's the thing, Lou, is at the end of the season, 31 teams, 31 fans, 31, team media members, they're all talking about the negatives. Because if you don't win the Stanley Cup, it doesn't mean anything. That's kind of put it simply, that's really what happens at the end of the season in the NHL. So could a letdown happen? Yeah, it's going to happen for 31 teams. Could the Oilers be one of them? Yes. But there's also a factor of, if you lose out in the Battle of Alberta, I think that media members, they're going to look at it, I think, pretty level-headed and say, well, you know what, whatever team loses, you're like, it's a high-intensity series. Can't imagine being in it. Like, hard to point the finger at who to blame, likely. Fans are going to overreact because fans are going to be on each other. Like, Flames fans and Oilers fans hate each other. I think back to Detroit, Colorado. Like, you guys had a few years of really hating each other.
Yeah.
Well, this is 30, 40 years of hating each other. This is a rivalry that doesn't die ever. When the Wings and Avs play nowadays, you're like, oh, okay,
it's
fine.
Nothing like it used to be. No,
right? And so that's a rivalry that fizzled out. This is a rivalry that you can't fizzle out. There can never be a boring Battle of Alberta where these teams, these fans aren't into it. Like, they're such diehards, Lou. That's what's going to be the disappointing factor, is that whatever team loses, their fans are going to be choked. There's going to be a lot of complaining about the refs. You know that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, end of the day, that's all just whatever fans think. But it's going to be a great series. There's going to be fingers pointed. There's going to be people calling for suspensions. There's going to be some unbelievable plays. I just hope everyone actually enjoys it. Like, just imagine how lucky we are. It's been 31 damn years since we've seen the Flames and Oilers in the playoffs. And it's not like one of these teams squeaked in and one was super dominant either all season, right? Like, it's not like, it's going to be done in 4. Like, these teams are evenly matched.
Oh, boy.
I don't know. I can't express how much I'm looking forward to it.
I'm not going to ask you for a prediction, but, it's crazy as I saw a stat, too. Like you say, 31 years these two teams have not met, and it's still, besides the original 6 teams, this is the third most played, most times it's gone to a Game 7, is this rivalry, only behind Dallas, / Minnesota, and St. Louis, and I think Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. It's insane how close this rivalry is when they play. And that's why I think it's going to be a 7-game series.
I'm so on the fence about this one, Lou. Like, is it going to be 7? Could it be 6? I haven't even put out my official prediction yet. Well, I guess when this is going live, my official prediction's out at World Hockey RPT. But again, just because we are definitely 100% not pre-recording this, my prediction is that it's going to be over in 6.
Okay.
I don't know which way it goes. Like, Game 6 in Edmonton, that's going to be crazy for one. So if the Oilers are up 3-2 in the series, I can't see them losing at home in Game 6.
Hey, Cody.
But also, if the Oilers are banged up, I think the Flames could take it in Game 6, being the fact that they've now been through a Game 7, been like, oh, shoot, we don't want to have to go through that again. We're definitely closing them out when we get a chance.
What's funny is I look at the 8 teams that are remaining, and it's crazy that Edmonton has the least amount of points with 104. Doesn't that tell you how awesome it is to have such great quality teams left in the playoffs?
The league is in such good hands. And I know that phrase gets overused. You hear the NFL with their stars, the MLB, the NHL. Let's be real. A Calgary-Edmonton matchup is so good for the league, it's not even funny. Like, TV ratings are going to be through the roof. Social media content engagement's going to be through the roof. As I said before, you couldn't handpick a better matchup in the playoffs if you had 32 teams to choose from.
I agree. Hey, before we let you go, I would be remiss without asking you a couple quick questions about the coaching carousel. At the time of this taping, we just found out that Peter DeBoer was let go at Vegas, and of course Barry Trotz last week in in the Island. and it sounds like today that Lane Lambert's going to be the new head coach. Never know with Lou Lamoriello what he's doing. You can never trust. He's so close to the vest, but give me your thoughts on Vegas getting rid of DeBoer. Sounds like it's kind of getting to be a little not so nice there in Vegas. And, with Lambert there, what do you think of Trotz? Where do you think he may end up if he's going to coach again?
I think Vegas makes sense, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness,
great
yes.
Great place to live. They've gotten money they can throw at them. I don't know, but again, as a coach, why do you really want to go to Vegas for hockey-wise? I don't believe Robin Lehner is an elite starting goaltender.
No.
I don't believe they put themselves in a good situation GM-wise to make a run because they've absolutely ruined their cap situation. I don't see that window being as bright as everyone's looking. Everyone's saying, oh, you're just staring straight into the sun. I'm not sure about that. I don't think Vegas is as big of a contender as people make out to seem. And if Barry Trotz goes there, yeah, he's probably going to get $5 million a year. But can you coach that team to a championship now? I don't think so. I think they've got too many holes, and I think goaltending is the sore spot.
Yeah, I agree. And now now the waiting game waits here in Detroit, who they're going to pick. I don't see Trotz coming to Detroit. I could see him either going to Winnipeg or possibly just retiring for a year at least, going home and maybe taking a TV job.
I could see Paul Maurice in an interesting one that Stevie Y talks.
Oh boy.
I know it's a little old school. I know there's definitely been some bridges burnt in there, but doesn't that seem like a conversation to be had where Stevie Y has played against them? He's seen them from the top down. He's seen them run rosters through.
Wow.
I don't know. I that's an interesting one, and not enough people are talking about because I think there's a couple of lines that connect, and I'm very confident in what I've heard that there has been conversations between those two for Detroit.
Well, if anybody would know, the source with the #1 hockey internet show on the planet, World Hockey Report, it would be Cody Jansen. I'll take your word for it. As long as it's not Mike Babcock again, I'm okay with it. So.
No, you're safe on that front. I think he's sticking around Saskatoon for another year.
I don't blame him there. Cody, I really appreciate you taking time out tonight. My God, I am so envious of you being in the hockey pulse of the world right now with the Battle of Alberta. Enjoy it, my friend. And again, thanks for taking time out to come on with us tonight. And good luck. Keep up the great work, by the way. Your stuff is fantastic. And enjoy the series and enjoy the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I appreciate you, Lou. Always a pleasure.
All right. Of course, that being Cody Jansen. Thank you very much, Cody, for taking time out. As I mentioned, he's say it 100 times. He's front and center right now. They're about ready to drop the puck. In about a couple hours for the Battle of Alberta between Calgary and Edmonton. Again, you can hear his work, see his work on the World Hockey Report that airs Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Him and Tyler Kuhl at 2 o'clock Eastern time on 12 Ounce Sports. So again, thanks to Cody Jansen for coming on tonight here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We're live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network with episode 3 of the Captain Lou Extravaganza podcast. We're also pleased and excited to be a part of the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network, the Belly Up Sports community. It's been great getting to know some of the guys and gals on the network there. And we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza as well. And again, a reminder that tonight's broadcast is being sponsored. We've got a new sponsor to the Captain Lou Extravaganza, InTheClutch.com. Check them out right now. They've got all kinds of cool apparel there. And if you go on the website, you find something you like, use the promo code RealCaptainLou, all one word, and you get 10% off. You can use the link as it is on the screen as well, InTheClutch.com/RealCaptainLou, and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. And that's at InTheClutch.com. They are our newest sponsor here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Now, we mentioned Colorado and St. Louis. We talked about that. That's their second round matchup has started. Game 1 last night went to overtime. Colorado, we wondered if they'd have some rust after getting or having a 4-game sweep with Nashville. Well, they got a little bit of a scare against St. Louis. St. Louis tied things up at 16:46, but then the Avalanche got that game-winning goal in overtime at 8:02. Josh Manson, his first goal of the playoffs. He got the assist from Kadri and Landeskog. 8:02 into the overtime, and they beat St. Louis by the score of 3-2. 25 shots is all Kemper faced for Colorado. Jordan Bennington, he had 51 saves on 54 shots. He was the hero, one of the heroes for St. Louis in 2019. Again, he didn't start the playoffs for Craig Berube, but he came in and he helped lift them past Minnesota. Now they've got a Herculean task, as I mentioned, as they've got Colorado, who many feel are the odds-on favorite to win the Stanley Cup. I think they're going to as well. And we won't get into it. Of course, I picked them to beat Toronto. Toronto lost again to Tampa in 7 games. You know, it's one of those things where I thought, who knows? Finally, this could be the year with that talent. You had Marner, you've got Austin Matthews, you got Nylander. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They couldn't do anything with it. So again, Florida versus Tampa Bay now, the Battle of Florida. Tampa's set to make a three-peat run. They spotted, Florida a goal last night, but then that beautiful play, Kucherov with that nifty move as he went over the line, 2-on-1 rush. He found Perry wide open. I could have put that puck in the net that time. My dad and I were watching that game. Incredible. He said the same thing he could. His 81-year-old legs, I think, could have done that. But then Tampa was able to respond again with 3 third-period goals, 2 on the power play. 3 power play goals for Tampa Bay last night. If you're Florida, you do not want to do that. Obviously, you can't give them those power play chances. Tampa Bay steals game 1 on the road, so they're going to go in to try to make it 2 in a row in Florida tomorrow night. But tonight, scoreless. Let's see if we can get an update on that score real quick between the Hurricanes and the Rangers. The Rangers are up 1-0. Chittle with a goal, and he's got the opening goal for the New York Rangers. So they're up 1-0. 7:07, the time of the goal. Lafreniere with an assist. Philippe Schittle gets the goal at 7:07. So New York, coming off a big Game 7 win over Pittsburgh, riding the momentum, going down to Carolina to take on the Hurricanes. They've got a 1-0 lead about midway through the opening period. 5:37 to be exact left to go in that opening period. So definitely would be an upset if they win this series, I think. But give them credit, the Blue Shirts. They came through, and a lot of people thought they weren't going to. I thought when it was 3-2, I thought they were done. They won a big game in Pittsburgh in Game 6, and then, of course, Game 7 behind 3-2 in the third period. Got what a lot of people are saying could be kind of a questionable goal after what should have been a penalty for a helmet getting knocked off. They tied it up on that sequence. Then they won it in overtime, 4-3. They get Carolina, who beat a pesky Boston team. My question for Boston, are we going to see changes? What's going to happen with that core? They're getting a step over. Kind of like Pittsburgh. Kind of maybe looked like they ran out of steam. Pittsburgh really, to me, looked like they ran out of gas in that third period against New York and were hanging on for dear life, and they couldn't do it. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that. And again, coming up tonight at 9:30, the Battle of Alberta, as we've been talking about all night, Calgary and Edmonton. And we talked about that again. And real quick on the Barry Trotz update, last week we talked about it. He got let go by the Islanders and kind of put a crimp in what we were hoping for the Red Wings, as we were hoping maybe Lane Lambert, old friend of Steve Yzerman, could get the job here in Detroit. But Barry Trotz is interviewed with Philadelphia. I think he's had talks with Winnipeg, his hometown team. And we talked about a little bit with Cody Janner. Could he go to Vegas? He'd reunite with Robin Leonard. But I look at that team, and they're in salary cap purgatory right now. I think they had their run. They were in win now mode in Vegas, and now I think they're done. They've got a lot to overcome there. That locker room is kind of fractured. We'll wait and see. My question is, would Barry Trotz want to go into that nightmare and try to solve what's going on there? They've got some players. They got Jack Eichel. That's tempting. Can he stay healthy for a season? In the wild, wild west. We talked about Colorado and St. Louis already, so there you go. So some big games left. 5 Game 7s this past weekend. The Stanley Cup playoffs have definitely indeed been a lot of fun to watch. Just setting the stage for another huge weekend or a huge week of games or so with the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Finally, we'll talk about the NBA real quick as we wrap things up tonight. Game 1 last night, Boston and Miami. We talked about it a little bit with the Boston Celtics kind of limping in and losing Horford to these health and safety protocols. Really like the defense in the second half by the Miami Heat, clamping things down. I think they're just going to be a little too much on the defensive side, and especially without Al Horford. Sounds like Marcus Smart's going to be in tomorrow, or for game 2. That's big for them. They got to get a win in Miami. If Miami gets up 2-0, that's going to be pretty much, I think, an insurmountable lead to overcome for the Boston Celtics. And on the Western Conference Finals, we touched on it a little bit. Dallas and Phoenix. Game 7, Dallas went in there and just blew the doors off. Now their prize is they're going to go play Golden State tonight in Game 1. This one, I'm still going to stick with Golden State going to the finals. I had them against Milwaukee. I think they're going to beat Dallas, but I think it's going to be a little bit more of a knockdown, drag-out series for them. We'll see. This is one of the things I always like to look at. After a big series win by a team in 7 games, do they ride that momentum? Are they going to be able to carry that into Golden State? You've got Draymond Green a little bit rested. You've got Steph Curry, who I don't think had one of his better series, so he might have a chip on his shoulder coming into this game tonight. And, of course, you got Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole. On paper, it looks like Golden State's just the better team. But Dallas is going to give them some defensive fits as well. And Brunson, watch out for him. I think he could be a load to handle. So, it's going to make for a dynamite series there. I'm going to stick with Golden State. I think they're going to win that one. But I think that one could go to the distance. I really do. I think that could go 7. And they're going to win it in Oakland in the 7th game and go to the finals. Finally, wanted to talk a little bit. We got about 3 minutes left here tonight. About Patrick Beverley. I see him on TV just bad-mouthing Chris Paul and dogging him. And it bothers me when you got guys coming on there. Here's a guy playing that's never been to the finals. He's never done anything. What good has he done? Has he won a ring? No, and I see him on there just dogging the hell out of these guys. And it's like, did Chris Paul choke? I don't know. He didn't show up. He had a rough couple of games. I think that was one of the reasons. It sounds to me, I know they get guys like that on there on these talk shows just to get ratings. But come on, enough already. Stop it. You got no room to talk, man. Just get over yourself. No, I'm done with that. So, anyways, that's going to do it tonight for our show. Kind of a short show tonight. We'll be back next week. We're going to talk baseball as the quarter pole is about here. It's past the quarter pole. One of the, measuring sticks, if you will, when you get around Memorial Day weekend. And we're going to get a couple of baseball guests on next week. We're going to have some fun with that, so we hope you stick around for that. Want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Want to thank Cody Jansen from the World Hockey Report for taking time out tonight to be on the show. We want to thank you, the viewer, too, for checking us out. This is the Captain Lou Extravaganza podcast. We are on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube, and also you can check us out on the Belly Up Sports family of podcasts. We want to thank them. Real excited to be a part of them as well. Well, hey, that's going to do it again. Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Thanks again for joining us here tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So long.